me in order, please rise and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, do a roll call, please.
Mayor Steve Bellamy.
Here.
Councilmember Kevin Robinson.
Here.
Joe Milbaugh.
Here.
Robert Fowler.
Here.
Sarah Hudson. Here.
All right, do I have a motion tonight to adopt tonight's agenda?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Councilman Robinson makes that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Newbauer makes a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. I'm going to, before we get to the consent agenda, I'm going to hold out two items just for clarification and explanation of some items that I have questions on, item B and item C. So I have a motion tonight to adopt tonight's consent agenda items A, D, and E.
I'll make that motion.
Councilor Muir makes that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Councilor Lippert makes a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay. Some of the questions I have on utility billing, I want to go on here and just, let me just get to this one where I have it here. Just wait for the PDF book. On the meters, from what I'm gathering here, on the $250 fine, and on the list, by the way, there was 38 addresses that I counted there, not 37. There was 38 total. So the addresses of the $250 charge to,
No, there's 5.
it says 37.
Rental licensing.
Was that rental license?
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. So this is something else here. So on the licenses, on these fees here, right, you're right, because I'm jumping ahead. But anyway, are all the meters done now?
No,
Scheduled.
they still are working on some. These were like the first batch that they started on, and they had given them notice and notice and notice, and so on December 2nd, they hadn't responded. So these were of the first batch. They had different batches that they were working through, and so these hadn't responded at all. So on 12/2, we put a $250 fee on.
Right.
Since that time, they all have come in, these 5, and gotten their meter changed out. And a couple of them called in, so I questioned Joe, do we now want to the 250? We said we'd bring it to council and let you guys decide.
All right, but am I under wasn't there some number like 80 or 85 that was still left?
There's,
Correct.
So there's still 80 out there?
Parish said there's 42 left.
42
There'll
left.
be more batches coming up.
You know, the sad thing is this was hopefully the company thought it'd be done, Ferguson thought it'd be done by Thanksgiving. Then they shoved it back to Christmas, and now we're into January, mid-month.
Had everybody move though, probably would have. It's just that it's on the residents too.
Yeah, I know. And so it's a shame that you have to do a $250 fine to get them motivated. But like I say, so 42,
Yes.
and how are we doing with that then? I mean, are they gonna be fined or push them into doing it, or?
Same process, I assume.
at some point, yes, we would do the same process.
I mean,
These people moved relatively quickly once they got the fine notice. And we weren't doing it to make money, we just thought it got their attention.
well, it worked for 5 anyway.
Right.
Well, that's the only 5 that have been notified.
That's only 5 that have gotten that fee. We have not done.
All right, so what I'm saying to you is you got 42 here. So if you go 5 at a crack here, that could take you what, almost 9 weeks to get that done, not 9 periods or whatever? I mean, why don't we just fine them all 250, get it done with?
And that, that I would have to talk to Jen about, where they are in that process. If they, she's trying to contact them. If you look at this, she goes above and beyond trying to contact these people and find
Well, I can see that, yeah.
who it is and trying to find a phone number and stuff. So
And you got
it's a lot of work.
5 dates of contact with each one of these 5.
Yep.
But I understand, so is there a solution here to get these people motivated to get this done, hopefully in 30 days? I mean, Ferguson's hold up, we're paying for this, and it doesn't seem, there's no seem to be an end run to it or a final finish to it.
It seems like this notice of the $250 fine got people's attention. And I guess just logistically, I haven't been directly involved, but they sent them all out to the remaining 40. I don't know what that would do to their inspection or their installation schedule. So I don't know if they're trying to ease into it or what. But
Yeah, but Joe, but you have dates of 9/16 to 10/30, 5 times on each one of these people. Took them 5 notices to figure out they had to pay a fine.
How come, why were there two, or mailing dates, October 2nd, 2 different mailings went out on that same date?
I see that too,
See
too,
that?
too.
It's on all of them. So I was just wondering, did we send 2 different notices out on October 2nd?
Could have been a call and a letter.
Yeah,
So
That could have been.
Okay, it
Jen
just says
is
mailing
handling
dates,
those.
so.
when the fine notices specifically went out, was that
It was on the second.
12 to, or no, before that, because that was the,
It says mailing count is 5 mailing dates.
I mean, how about if you make up a letter that says something to this effect? You know, this is the warning, you know, you will be fined $250 if you don't comply within 30 days. Period. And then send it out to everybody blanket. Can we do that, Dave? Or is that wrong?
send that out to the assessor?
So that's if they don't
Well, they-
respond.
they-
That doesn't necessarily mean that they, well, it will be scheduled in that 30-day window, but at least they responded.
Well, it's not like they have sent the notices out as of now, is that what you're saying, Joe, with the other 40?
They may have.
they are working through those, all of those batches. I know there's some place in that process.
Well, because here's what I thought of mine. Say for instance here, okay, and council decides here in a little bit to waive these 250s off these 5 people, and then wind gets out to these other people, these other 42, that the threat doesn't mean nothing because they're gonna take it away anyway. I mean, I'm just saying to you, you've got, sadly but true, you have to push people to do what you need to be done, okay? And these meters are not a big deal. They should be changed out. This is not the end run here. It's simple. We said it before at council meetings, and the council said too, with me, it's just call for a date, have access to your meter, and done deal. 35 minutes, you're done. Yet it takes how many weeks to do this? While the whole program's being held up? It's ridiculous. And right now, we're at a point where the software's coming online here, or a majority of it, and yet we're still not gonna be fully activated. And then if I look at Jeremy's report on Public Works, I see 124 rereads because of this crap. So, what's the solution here? How do we light a fire these people and get them to know this has gotta be done, sooner than later?
Well, I think they're working on that.
And that's what this letter did.
Yeah. And that's just because this is how Ferguson moved forward, from what I understand, is this is the first batch we're gonna get. And it doesn't say that they're gonna be 5 at a time, it just said that this was the first batch that they came across.
Yeah, they had 5 that were left at that point.
And I think these current people, given, like they said, if they acted that fast, I wouldn't have an issue myself taking away the fee for these people. If the next people say, wait a month and then ignore it, then at that point, you can address it at that point. Say, well, if you're just gonna ignore it at that point, you're costing us staff and whatever.
All right, so February 3rd is our next council meeting after this one. So Jeremy, do you think by February 3rd it's possible these 42 could come online? I doubt you'd bet your life on it.
That I don't know.
Well, doesn't, part of that though, it's not that Jeremy, it's whether or
No,
not
I
Ferguson
understand.
can do
I
it,
know.
right? I mean, we don't know what their availability is. Are they still gonna be able to, I mean, you would think that they wanna get this done too, so you would think Ferguson, I mean, would work with them.
Ferguson's not the holdup though, right?
No.
Ferguson's scheduling, they're working with anybody. It's the residents.
Right.
So that's my point here. So, you know, what was supposed to be Thanksgiving, which was kind of fast but still doable, then Christmas, but now we're in January going to February in a couple weeks. So what is going to be different now in the next city council meeting that we sit here and hear that? Will we hear about, instead of 42, we'll hear 37, or will we hear 21, or will it be done? I mean, that's my question. I mean, how much longer does it take to get something that's so commonplace in most cities done?
I think he very well could have some stragglers.
Now, that's what I'm afraid of. And in the meantime, we're paying Public Works to go out and read these meters and stuff like that, and all that. That takes them off from time they should be in other places than that. You know, I mean, because you read the Public Works document. You saw the rereads and that. That's high. That's normally not like that. Before we started, it wasn't like that, and it will be better once it's all done. But it has to get done. So my question, once again, is how do we light a fire on them to get it done?
I think so, I don't know if those wives are doing that.
Yeah, I think we stay the course and we send out these fine notices to whether it's all 40 or another 15 or whatever. Gauge the effectiveness, and if it doesn't work, then maybe we have to go back to the drawing board. don't know.
Well, that's what I'm suggesting, that we send out, to these 42 people, say, you know, if you don't comply within 30 days or 15 days or whatever it may be, to set up a schedule with Ferguson, we set up the schedule, you'll be fined $250 until it's completed. Just, you know, I mean, I hate to be hardcore about this, but we want to get this done.
I know at one point they talked about shutting out some people, but we can't.
You can't do that, you can't shut
Yeah,
us
no,
down.
no.
We're
Because we don't
stuck.
know if they have hot water heat.
No, can't do that. So,
Well, Mr. Mayor, I agree with you. If we suspend these, word could get out and they could be even further behind. I'd be for just postponing this until we hear about the other 42 as well and deal with them all on a case-by-case basis. We know what we got from those 5, so that's how I would look at it, is a case-by-case.
I happen to agree with that, because if we do this and then we send out a fire that says you'll be fined $250, and we take these off, they're gonna say, well, you're gonna take it off anyway, once we connect. So, really, you shouldn't take these off until the whole thing is a completed project, and then you can take it off, if you're gonna do it.
Well, I would say on the merits of these people actually just doing it, getting it done, I'd argue differently. I'd be in favor of waiving these ones because these people acted fast and moving on and dealing with the rest on a case-by-case basis as they come forward. Like I say, it's 30 days, they don't comply, nobody comes forward, nobody comes to City Hall, and at that point, you cost the public money to where you have a reason, more of a reason to fine them. I would say more of a.
Yeah, well, that makes sense too.
But we can make a note on these 5 right here. Chances are we're gonna waive them. We have 47, or however many, 42 plus these 5. We know these 5 are credible. It's the other 42.
Just wipe them off the board. That's kind of my argument for that.
Why?
Get them
The
out of the way.
argument
and
is,
here.
it gets out there that the
But-
city's just gonna waive it.
But we're not just
Not
waiving,
necessarily.
but we're not just waiving it, we're saying because they got their letters and these 5 people
You're rewarding
got
good
on it
behavior.
right now, and they took care of it, that's why their fee is be getting waived, not because
If you want
we're
your
not
fee
fining
waived,
them.
get down to City Hall, you can look at it, you can argue it either way.
Right, either way, but what I'm trying to do is get,
It all depends on how
compel
the
these
person
people to get done.
Right,
You know, I mean-
and if we waive these, and the next people act fast, because they know it'll get waived if they act fast,
And
it
the other
might
thing
speed up
is
the
we can't
process.
leave
too.
these 5 people waiting for
It
that
could turn out
$250
in
to get
a number of
charged to
ways,
them
there's
either.
really no,
Because if we don't
I
do it
like that
soon,
idea.
you know what I'm
I
saying?
like that idea too.
Yeah, I can work with that.
We had one gentleman that I talked to that the fee went on December 2nd, and I think his meter was changed out because they had put another notice on his thing, and he said, that's the first one he saw. He called in and he had it changed on December 4th, so it was a too big frame.
I mean, the
I know
bottom,
he had been notified all this time, but
right, the bottom, look, it's just like abatements and fines. We don't generate monies from doing that. We generate monies from growth. I've said it more than once. But the fact of it is, you have to compel these people, and the way to compel them is their pocketbooks. It's like for Todd was speeding. How do you stop someone from speeding? You tag them a fine. When they pay out of pocket, I'm not saying they're not gonna speed again, but they're gonna stop speeding for a while. At least on that street, they got tagged on, for sure, because they had to pay a fine. My point is, look, I don't wanna fine anybody, but this needs to get done here. And for some reason, these people don't understand the whole picture, you know what I mean? It's just not their 42, it's 7, it's all the other residents that have complied. It's a simple process. You set up, you call for a schedule, they work with you on your scheduling of it, and then you make access to the meter, and it's a done deal. Pretty simple. We're not looking to see what you're doing in your house. We're just looking to change the meter. We're not looking at how many tires you have in your garage. We're just looking to see your meter change out, that's all. So how do you compel these people to do that? And the pocketbook seems the one way to do it.
and it seems like if we're, for these 5, so, I mean, we're gonna have those few who don't, we know that they're
So
inevitably
maybe we
gonna
should
end
stop,
up.
again, maybe what you're saying, Joe, I can agree with you around on this one here. These people did comply, so this, we can say that's the end. We get whatever we're gonna do here, we do it, and then start forward. And for these 42 people, we say, you know, tell them that if you don't comply within 30 days or have a schedule down within 30 days with Ferguson Water Works to change out your meter, you will be fined $250. Period. And if they come back to me on my vote 31 days later, I'm gonna say 250. I'm gonna say 250, period. I'd like to see this done here before March, I mean, for Christ's sake. So,
I have a question, Mayor.
please.
Are we waiting the batch so-called batch? Are we waiting for Ferguson, will they turn in 12, then 13, then 9? Or what does the batch consist of? And is it Ferguson's call on the batches coming through?
That I don't know.
I'm not sure, I'm out of the loop on that process, but I know the batch is a big batch. Like, there are a lot, because we had to get through, 1,500 meters in just a couple months. So they just put them in different batches and started in this area and.
Right, but now they're at the end of the run, so what is the batches? I bet you 42 people called up, Kevin, and had a schedule, called for scheduling.
But they could be in various points of the city, and Ferguson's trying to make their routes count for something, so that's what probably a batch is.
Was that more prudent in the beginning than the end, the batches, because it was a big area?
Yeah, I mean, I think these, the last ones are somewhere in a batch. They're somewhere in a batch that didn't apply. Some of them are vacant homes, some of them, we just can't find anybody. We don't have a good number to get a hold of them. So it's really difficult to get these people to comply.
Yeah, but someone's been paying the water bills on those houses, right?
I don't know who are allowed, I would have to go look. Some might not. We have some bills that
Yeah, it
don't
might be the
get
bank.
paid until we special assess them, so,
Could be the bank. Bank owned.
yeah.
You know, it's really a shame because,
And if they're bank owned, it's really tough to find somebody to do the deal.
well, the sad thing is, this was not meant to hurt anybody, it was meant to help the city and the rate users. And it seems to be a real pain in the butt. So,
I think any that I've ever heard of doing it, you get down and there's a few that you just deal with for a long time.
Jeremy, let's just hypothetically say, these 42, let's just, for argument's sake, say 50% comply within 30 days. So now we're down to 21. And let's say, just hypothetically, these 21 don't comply at all. They're the 1 to 2% holdouts that never comply with anything. What do we do then?
Then you would find them.
Whoa. Yeah, we had to issue this $250 fine.
And then what? If we give them a $250 fine, they still don't comply, then what? How do we get to the houses to the meters?
You'd probably end up on like the fee schedule type of deal, but I don't know if there's one necessarily for this.
Well, come in spring, you could take them and say turn them off.
Come springtime.
But don't we and Joe have the right?
Mayor and council, the very last thing that we could probably do legally would be to try to go get an administrative search warrant, just for the specific reason of putting the meter in. There's got to be somebody home to let us in, and we've got to get it through a signing judge. We've got to write it up, what we're doing. You know, not
So there's legal costs, staff costs, police going out there, bloody, 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 and now the 250 becomes $1,000 per house. Well, I'm just saying, this is a guess off my head, because that's what we come down to abatements, that's what we get, $20,000 abatements, because people just can't work with us, we're trying to work with them.
That's where shutting them off and trying to be more effective cost-wise.
If somebody's living there.
Yeah, go to the curb stop and shut them off, you know?
A lot of times if you go out and paint green in your driveway,
I don't want to be hard here, you know. This council's always been fair, fair and flexible where we can be, but this gets ridiculous. I mean, this could theoretically go into 6 months from now, hanging out with the 10 or 15 people that can't comply with anything. So to me, it's like, I don't know what else to say. It's like, how do we get them to get out here and just, there's water bills going out there, where they're paying them out, they're still getting billed. Somebody's getting billed for that house. That's a fact. Even on vacant properties with vacant registration, they still get billed, correct? Okay?
the water.
Vacant registration still gets billed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so.
And Mayor and Council, there are codes that do trigger the Public Works Director to turn off a property. We would just have to review those codes and how they apply to each property.
Right. But you're talking into April before you could do that. Because with the weather, you can't shut it off before.
We've shut off some vacant homes that don't have power and stuff, I think. But yes, there is the rule that you can't shut off water if they're heating with hot water heat, and we don't know each house.
This does frustrate me. So can we send out a letter to these people, these 42, and let them know that this is a serious, serious matter, and that they should basically get off the pot and do something here? You know,
I would
can I say it
coordinate
politely?
with Jen
Yeah.
to get another letter sent out.
Because I can't speak for the other four members here, but I tell you what, if we say 30 days and they come here 31, once again, I will vote for $250 fine to stay. I don't care how they plead, whatever. You have 30 days to comply for something this easy. That's a minute a day. 30 minutes, a minute a day. That's all we're asking you to give up, to get them in and get it done.
So are you initiating the 250 now then, or just another letter of, hey,
I'll talk with Jen and we can
Yeah,
send out a
you
letter
notify
to
them
the
of
last
first.
people saying you've got 30 days to comply, otherwise you're gonna get $250.
30 days to make a scheduled date with Ferguson Waterworks to comply with the meter change out. If after 30 days you don't do it, then you will be fined $250. On the 31st day, you will be fined $350.
And then at that point, you don't wanna hear anything from them.
And I don't, you know? If you're on 31, if you're on at midnight after the 30 day and you come to me, I'm gonna say, sorry, you had your warning. Plus all the months in before, or all the warnings we had. You know, what we're forgetting right now is these people have all been warned since we started this project.
Well, what about the one guy that had it scheduled, but we didn't know about it, and he still got fined on the second?
I don't think we had, when she put him on, when she sent it in, didn't have it scheduled, but he
Okay.
called in and got it done on the 4th. So 2 days later, he did get it done. So he said that he didn't know that $250 was coming on, and so then complained later that when he saw it on the bill. He said, I did comply.
So basically it starts fresh. So from basically this point on, we can do this. It's a stern warning, but it should be, it needs to be effective to them and understand this isn't something to keep putting off. Because like I say again, if you wait till April, that's another 2-3 months down the road here before we even do anything. In the meantime, everybody's being held, meter reads and all this, and then legal and all this other staff time is ridiculous. These things become expensive after a while. So, do I need a motion on that, Dave?
It would be appropriate.
Darcy, can we put that fee on their water bill? So yes, they get a letter.
That's where it goes.
Yeah, that's where it goes.
Goes on the water.
Mhm. So these 5 people have
They
it
see
on
that
their water bill.
$250 fee. Okay.
Yeah. Because it's not from watering your lawn today.
So,
So do we need a motion, Dave, to do this?
be looking for a motion, of potentially removing these $250 fines. And I think we have direction from you guys as to how to proceed with this. The only thing that's kind of unknown right now is we don't know if there's notices floating out there that don't say exactly what you directed us to do tonight. That could very well be the case, that there's already notices floating out there.
Well, I mean, if there's a notice floating out there and they come up here this week or next week and do that, I'm fine with that. That's still within the 30-day period, before you send it out again. But I'm just saying to you, it's time to get off the pot and get the meters changed. We're not out there sending police to look at your house on every direction or everything you do in your house. We don't care. We just want to change the meter. Crying out loud, it's just a meter. You think we're changing out the roof lines and structural, whatever, integrities.
I can get an update from Jen too and put it in the office.
Okay. All right, so do I have a motion on the utility and building, no response fee? One, to remove the $250 from these 5 people that have complied, and from this period forward, after these 5 residents, that we will send out a letter stating that they need to schedule with Ferguson Waterworks a date within 30 days to comply with the meter change out, or after 30 days, we will fine them $250. Correct, is that good? Do I have a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
Councilor Bauer makes that motion, have a second?
Second.
Councilor Mewbauer makes a second, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes on that. Thank you. Okay. Now, moving on to the other item, C, rental licenses. Just bear with me, I'm trying to get this. Okay, so, now, as part of the update, code was changed to create a process in which council approves, suspends, or revokes rental licenses. Okay, so basically, staff would recommend something to us on an individual address, and then council would come down to the final decision on that.
Correct.
Okay, okay. So to me, but what I did count, by the way, 38 addresses on the sheet.
Okay.
Okay, so I went over it a bunch of times, and I was trying to think about 37, but it wasn't 37. So it's 38 out of 81. So basically, is that less complicated or more complicated?
Mayor and Council, I think it's less complicated. It will remove some of the gray area that the rental administration had in the past and makes a more defined process. And from those outstanding, we've already had 8 more come off that have been sold, and we have them coming in the mail even today. So tomorrow they'll get a notice with a late fee identifying that, or the ones that are left. But this process will be successful.
So, and you're thinking mostly will be solved with the staff then versus the council?
Correct.
Okay.
What this will do is this, when we bring the attached lists, those are households that have already been registered. They have met any responsibilities with inspections or code enforcement items. So that's why it was on consent. It should be fairly easy. The only time that something would come before council is if we have a property that is now having severe nuisance problems, criminal activity, or something like that, that we would ask you to either suspend or possibly revoke a license. And that would be on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. Okay, I just didn't want to think that it was just, something on one end become the other end. I want the council to be a helpful hand, not a regulatory dominance type of thing. Does that make sense? I mean, okay, because we have confidence in our staff, but at the same time, this will help you in situations where you need our direction. Okay. All right, and that's the only question I had on that one. Anybody else have a question on it? Anybody else? Thanks for that clarification. On that, do I have a motion to adopt under the consent agenda rental license approvals?
I'll make that motion.
Councilor Biewer makes that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Councilor Goodwin makes a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Keith, for explaining that to us. Meeting open to the public? Really?
No one signed up for me.
Okay. Let's see. I want to go here. Just bear with me a second, because I got these 2 software programs. Is, before I go on here, about on page 35 here, okay, of the packet, page 35 of the packet, on 6-8-4 fees, is that part of the license thing too? Or is this,
What is that?
okay, this,
I don't have the same page numbers as council.
okay,
Is that within one of the packets?
yeah, the packet should be,
Which packet?
It's in the ordinances.
it's in the ordinances, yeah.
Ordinance number 249 SS, effective 8/19/2019, and it's 6-8-4 fees.
Item C, where it says billable transaction fees, license
It's
fees,
a red language change.
yeah, whatever language change.
Oh, within
Well, we're not even
the,
there yet, are we?
No, that's a different. That's in 9B.
9B, is it?
We're
of
on 9A right
the
now.
sewage treatment ordinance?
Pond broker? Is that,
Within
The
a
pond broker is
broker?
one.
I don't want to jump too. Yeah, it's about pond.
Yeah, it's
We're not even there.
We're not there
We're not
yet.
there.
Yeah, it's a.
This is where I get mixed up with this. Okay, anyway.
Okay.
Okay, so let's move on to planning commission appointments.
We're not
Okay?
there yet.
All right, don't want to jump too far ahead. Okay, so planning commission appointments. Okay, I'm going to flip-flop around until I get where I'm at, but go ahead. Planning commission appointments.
Okay, Mayor and Council, before you tonight is a request to appoint 2 planning commissioners. There are 4 applicants. We have 2 seats to fill, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so do I understand this where there's 4 members applying for 2 seats?
Correct.
Okay. And 2 of them are existing already.
Correct.
And then we have these other 2, one resident for 16 years and one for 6 years. Okay. Sarah, your comments?
My comments are, I want to thank everybody. It's nice to have a few applicants. And, let's see, I get to So the way I'm leaning right now is I would like to see Tara and Joe be placed on. I think that we encourage our residents to apply for these commissions, and if we don't give them a chance to serve, then they're not going to apply. They're not going to feel that it's worth them applying. I really do appreciate Ray and Rich's, both their service on the commission. I think they've done a good job. I just think that we can give these two other applicants who seem to be interested, I think we give them a shot. That's where I'm at.
Okay. Rob?
Sarah picked the same two names I did, for very much the same reasons as well. I do want to say that, I was on the planning commission before and with Rich and great guy. I don't know that I know Ray, but that's kind of where I'm leaning towards, is to give our fresh residents an opportunity to serve our community.
Okay. Thank you. Joe?
I would kind of lean the same way, although I'm probably 50-50. I'm kind of conflicted on whether or not obviously we work with Rich on the council. Ray, I've seen at some of the planning meetings, the few that I did attend in the past, and I think I'd like to reward or have their experience make a factor, but at the same time, I do agree with getting some fresh blood in there and kind of seeing how we always want more applicants, more involvement, and I would hope this wouldn't dissuade Rich or Ray from wanting to continue doing it in the future when their seats open up, because I think their experience is vital, but at the same time, when we're begging for more people to be involved, I think seeing two new names is nice. Whether or not that's a reason to pick them, I don't know. But I do like the idea of having the fresh people there, and if not, maybe even splitting it 1-on-1 if we did end up picking any of the current members. But as far as discussion, that's what I would say.
Well, Kevin, I like your input because you're on P&Z.
I want to thank Ray and Rich both for their service. Anytime you step up and do public service, it's a big deal, whether you're compensated or not. You made the commitment. You've gone out there, and just the time commitment alone. I mean, I've seen other communities where people go for these positions and they're no-shows, and their commitment is not there, and the city loses really. I like the fact that Tara and Joe, it looks like both of them are business owners. Joe, it was an Eagle Scout. I don't know how old this gentleman is. But I think fresh blood is good. Again, Rich and Ray have served very well in our community and will hopefully serve again as their time permits or desire permits. But I think it'd be nice to have some fresh stuff. And we have a fearless leader in Kate who helps guide the P&Z. And I mean, just because you're new doesn't mean you don't know things. I mean, these people have come from different social and world and economic experiences that might benefit our city. So I'd be all for that. Two new people. But again, thank you for the gentlemen who have served, and hopefully they'll step up and do some more.
Yeah, I served with Ray on St. Francis Ford planning, so I know Ray and Rich, of course, council and that stuff here, and I want to thank them too for their service in that. And you're right, it's commendable anytime someone comes forward. We've had difficulty in the past with commissions getting people to come forward, and I agree with Sarah 150% that if you say no to this, your likelihood of getting other people down the road when they may not have a chance against a basic incumbent. But I want to thank again Ray and Rich, but I would agree with council. Two new viewpoints, two different fresh attitudes, especially when the city's going in a new direction. Maybe it's time. So to me, can I have a motion for this? For the two?
That would be appropriate.
Okay. So I'm going to go on, do I have a motion to appoint Tara Kelly and Joe Collage, I think it is? Correct? Collage? How do you pronounce that?
That's my guess, yes.
Okay, we'll go with it. Okay, to serve on the P&Z Planning Commission for a term from January 6, 2020 to December 31st, 2022. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Udovich makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Mayor.
Councilman Robinson makes a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you to Ray and Rich, and thank you to these other people for applying. All right, moving on now to ordinance 257, second series, amending 6-8 pawnbrokers, first reading.
Mayor and Council, before you is an amendment to our pawnbroker code as discussed last December. The service provider for reporting and tracking of goods changed. Previous code was written too specific, so therefore changes were made. We have 3 of them. If council is in agreement, this would be a first reading. Code would be effective March 9th, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so this is where I come down to that one question I had. On page 35, where it says here. Let me get Yeah, when it says billable transaction fees, licensees, which was shall, now may pay a monthly transaction fee on all billable transactions as defined in section 6-8-1B. Such fee shall be set forth from time to time by the city council and listed in the adopted fee schedule. Billable transaction fees, I'll just read this. Billable transaction fees are payable within 30 days. Failure to timely pay the billable transaction fee shall constitute a violation of this section. My question is, may is like voluntarily. So I thought the way it was before with this type of thing with pawn shops, we were paying it and now we have them pay for it. So if we say may, what's to stop them from saying, well, I don't want to do it?
Mayor and Council, that's why it reflects back to the adopted fee schedule, so we have the opportunity to outline, we're required to outline all of our fees in that fee schedule. We had a per transaction fee with the last service provider. We don't with the new one, but there's nothing to say we won't with the next one. So what we're telling people is to follow the adopted fee schedule. So they may have one based on the adopted fee schedule.
Okay, so it still leaves the door open that they have to pay the fee.
Correct.
Okay, because when I word the may, I kept thinking it was like a volunteer situation. I'm thinking, wait a minute, I mean, we're not making it voluntary, they have to pay for it.
Correct. If it's identified in our fee schedule, they would be required to pay it.
Okay, that answered my question there. But let me ask you, Joe, did you not tell me that the pawnbroker is going to be leaving the city?
Mayor and Council, the pawnbroker closed as of January 1st.
Okay. So my next question on this, and I have to ask this because it concerns me, this new provider, vendor we're going to be using will not be utilized for us so much as to help other cities out today because we don't have a pawn shop here. So
Still helps with stolen property.
I grant you that. Right. And so there, you still feel viable. You know, we're talking $4,000. I know that's a chunk of change. And then when I was more pro for it when there was a pawn shop here, but there's not a pawn shop today. Doesn't mean there won't be one in the future. But do you feel still confident, Todd, that it's the right thing to do?
I feel it's an important tool for us to have. Whether this is the vendor for us for years and years to come, I'm not sure. We're pretty limited as far as what vendors are out there. We got pretty fortunate with HBS, who we've used before that, most of the state uses them. We've used them for a long time. And we recover a lot of stolen property. People, believe it or not, still pawn stolen property. We're able to use it as an investigative tool. Without that, we would be limited as far as certain.
So it doesn't matter if we don't have a pawn shop here. We still can use that vendor.
We're just not using it as an oversight tool, but we're still using it as an investigative tool. We've been using it as an investigative tool for 10, 15 years.
Right, because it's possible that what some resident here could have been, they lost some property that was in another city, that would allow us to find that out through the pawn shop.
Correct. If that other city uploads, or requires the pawn shop data to be uploaded into the system.
So it's not really based on us having a pawn shop physically here. It's based on what information we can get by helping somebody else get the property, as you stated that ceremony today with our investigator out there.
I believe we get much more benefit out of it as an investigative tool versus an oversight tool.
Okay. All right, well, in that case, that's what I was wondering about, because like I say, I just want to bring the council that this one did close here. But it's more of a tool in general. Okay. All right, that's the one question I had here. I just want to make sure before I move on here, that's one other item, make sure it's in a different section here. All right, that's a different item. Okay, all right, that's my only question. Kevin, do you have any questions?
No, I had the same question you did, Mayor, and staff and chief. They answered it very quickly and thoroughly for me. Thank you.
Joe?
I have nothing to add. It's housekeeping pretty much.
I had nothing to add.
Okay, good. All right, well then, do I have a motion, this will be a roll call too, by the way, but a motion for ordinance 257, thank you, Kate, by the way. For ordinance 257, second series, amending 6-8 Pond Rovers, first reading. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Councilman Bauer makes a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Mewbauer makes a second. Further for discussion? For the ordinance, roll call.
Robinson,
Here.
Miller,
Aye.
Feldman,
Aye.
Fowler,
Aye.
Isaac,
Aye.
pass 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, now we're going to be moving on to ordinance 258, second series of any city code 3-4 rules and regulation relating to individual on-site sewage treatment, first reading.
Mayor and Council, before you tonight is an amendment to our septic ordinances. Amendments were requested by the MPCA to meet state statute, in addition to create some response. Since we are needing to update this code, it appears the conversation of a sale or a transfer process would be a good time. And this happens when a property is sold, the septic system must be reviewed for compliance. This allows us to again capture that reporting data at just a different time in the property versus the every 3 years. If council wishes to include a sale code, it would be written into our existing code. Right now I have it as a last page. The last page is marked as 3-4-X. That would be optional for council, but this is the direction that many cities are going. So the language in the individual code is an amendment based on MPCA. The very last page is an optional piece that if the city was to consider it now, it would be a good time. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, my one question here on the cover page of this, number 4 says update ordinance on 2 feet separate requirements. Explain that to me, the 2 feet.
Mayor and Council, it's 2 feet separation requirements. That was a word. It's separation. So when the installation of the septic system is put in, the separation limits, Craig could probably answer this better than me, in regards to like water tables or wetlands. So some of that language that we've had to include updates.
So it's a 2 feet buffer.
Correct.
Okay, is that what I'm talking about? Okay, because when I saw separate, I couldn't understand.
No, it's
Okay.
separation.
Okay.
My apologies.
No, that's no problem. Those questions are when you don't ask. Okay. Anyway, all right, so now on page 47 here, section H, items 1 and 2, okay? 2 being a failing system in SSTS that is a non-protective of groundwater shall be brought into compliance with cut out 24, went down to 6 months after receiving notice from the building official. And then that's 2. 1 was once again, Bart, I'll just read this from here. A subsurface sewage treatment system which poses an imminent threat to public health and safety shall immediately abate the threat according to instructions by the building official and be brought into compliance with this ordinance in accordance with the schedule established by the building official, which schedule will not exceed, which was 10, now down to 6. And item 2 was 24 months down to 6. My question is 6 still too long?
Mayor and
Because if you have a
Council,
faulty septic.
right, so Mayor and Council, the state allows them the 10 and 24 months. Working with these systems over the last few years, 24 months to bring something into compliance is an extremely long time. That was the absolute, length of time they got.
And that state says that?
The state says that. So I cranked that down to 6 months. If you feel that you would want a faster increase in a response of correction, we can put that at any point. So if you would like to drop it to 3 months, I think we have to have a reasonable point when it comes to Minnesota weather.
Right.
They wouldn't be able to do some of those or even test them in conditions like we have now. But 10 months and 24 months was an absorbent amount of time to correct something that was contaminating our water.
So my question is, and Craig may help me out on this too, by the way, but what about, and I grant you with weather, because this time of the year is very difficult to do that stuff, so you have to wait till spring, maybe after the ground starts thawing out. So what if we did something like 3 to 6 months, and then depending on weather? Can we do something like that? Because I mean, if you have a system that's breached, you don't want that in the ground any longer than it has to be. because it can affect groundwater.
Yeah, I think,
you're opening yourself up to.
I think that would be reasonable, like you said, though, depending on weather. And just getting on some people's schedules nowadays is not that easy, but I think the 6 months is appropriate, but.
I personally think 6 months is better because if you have a flat time frame rather than
A gray area there, then you can open it up to liability where you're causing court action and causing the cost more money to the city. If they want to fight it, they can say, well, the weather wasn't good enough, you're gonna say, well, yeah, it was. You're opening up for another argument.
Couldn't you incorporate some pumping activity between the finding the incident and then the correction? Couldn't you require some pumping apparatus
That's a
in there?
good, yeah, so you're remediating the actual fault of it without the full cure of it.
You're over my head, all right.
Well, I understand.
Just from having a pump.
You have a septic system that's breached, okay, it's failing. So what Kevin's saying is, you stop the part that's failing, and the full blow correction of it wouldn't happen until 6 months down the road. But you'd stop the actual breach of it right away, or as soon as possible. I can't believe this didn't go 24 months, 2 years, and then breach, wasn't groundwater, I mean, that's pathetic.
One of them river.
Oh, yeah. So enlighten me, Craig.
Yeah, again, I think 3 to 6 months, somewhere in there, but again, weather's gonna be a factor. If you say 3 months, I think we're gonna ask for a lot of extensions. Just with the weather and again, getting on contractors.
All right, okay, so what if we did the 6 months and then we just IE it or something to the effect that, but the cause of the failure has to be remedied as soon as possible. Full correction, 6 months, within 6 months.
That's another debatable topic, though.
Right.
Because if you say as soon as possible, what does that mean? You have to, I don't know, I'm thinking in legal terms how you would.
Dave?
You want to put a date on it. You would want to say as soon as possible, because we don't know what that is, and if it's applied differently to different people, it could potentially get challenged.
Okay. So what if we go, we listed as 4 to 6 months time frame. That way you have a variable time frame. So if the weather's good, they can fix it earlier. If the weather's bad, nothing's past 6 months. I mean, look, all I'm saying to you is 6 months is that's half the year. And if somebody breaches, let's say for instance the system goes bad in April, that's 6 months. So from 4 to October, before it gets corrected with that time frame. In the meantime, the likelihood, of course, anybody that would want to have a septic system down that long would be ridiculous to begin with. I realize that. How do other cities do it?
Yeah, again, I think the 4 months might be acceptable.
4?
I'm sure when going less than.
No, okay.
I wouldn't mind the 6 just because of the winter months. I think that it gives you that buffer for the winter to where something's caught in September, August, after 6 months, you would think that the weather would be good enough. And then if the weather's not good enough, then they can ask for an extension. But
Right, that way, but even at 4 months of the weather's good, they could ask for an extension too. I understand you, as we're relating to the water meter problems, where if the more time you give it, it seems to take the end result, you have to actually go the longest. If it's something like this that can affect groundwater, that's something that we should think about, you know what I mean? Because isn't that on the MS4, stormwater and everything else, runoffs and stuff like this, what we just did with Kings Highway and all that?
It's all kind of intertwined, really.
Yeah. I mean, because you're talking about failure of a septic system. That'd be no different than a failure of our wastewater system. If we were dumping bad into Sealy Brook, that would be something we want to correct, not 6 months down the road. So is that any different, whether it's independent or a full-blown wastewater facility? I mean, really, it's proportional. So, Kevin, what's your take on this?
I think 6 months is adequate. Have we had trouble with this in the past, Kate? And again, it's really up to the septic providers. If they report in or they're going to pull a permit, they can, on the permit, they're saying new system or repair to the system. Or have we had trouble like this before?
Mayor Crystal, I have one right now that is under the old code, and they are using several months to get it remedied. However, they've got a complicated system, so I don't know that they would have been able to do it in 3 months with some easement issues, but they, having that 24 months, they're going to sit on that 24 months if they can, so.
I used to work with my father-in-law when he owned a cesspool back in the day, and again, people sometimes had to bite the bullet and pay the fees were less than, $150 to $160 to pump, a 1,500, back then they were 1,000-gallon tanks, but people had to endure the cost of pumping, so A, their basement wasn't backing up, or B, it was gurgling to the top of the soil, and the neighbors were complaining that there was effluent all over. I mean, it's a bad deal, so, I don't know, even if, again, you don't want to complicate it more than you need to, but a pumping provision might be noted, but again, you started to go there, Mayor, when you said to stop the release of effluent or whatever within 6 months. It's up to the homeowner to take care of this in some fashion. I would think whether it's running into the Rum River, which there's more systems out there than you even want to know that are leaching into the river. But I mean, just the inland ground situation. I don't want to complicate it, but 6 months I think is reasonable. If that's the immediate question.
Right, and I agree with you on the 6 months of being a full compliance, where it's actually solved, the problem is solved, okay? But what in the meantime, during that 6 months, it's still breaching. So what I'm saying to you is, what if you gave it within a 4 to 6 months, you have the ability with that time frame to correct, stop the failure of it. The full correction can come in a 6 month time frame.
Well, stopping the failure is pumping the tank so that it's not running out it's not going into the home and it's not going out into the.
I mean, one of the problems we've had though is the fact a lot of homeowners haven't registered their septics, right?
Mayor Council, correct. We are currently behind in our septic records as far as who's pumped and who is not.
So let's say, are we again at 50% registered? Or we don't even know?
Without looking, I would hate to say.
Okay. Rob?
That was kind of one of the questions I had. Are we finding these failures through pumping the systems? And is there a pumping by date, like let's say April, May, June is our pump dates, and we get all of our septic customers in that review time? Because then you push out 6 months, that's before the frost comes in. So they could, if we went 6 months, they could get it under compliance before the winter. Or, they have a failure in December by an inspection that the groundwater or whatever is, they got all of the winter to get it ready for spring fix. So I'm right with the 6 months, but I would like to see our septic policies come into compliance and inspections within April, May, and no later than June, so that we don't push ourselves into the winter for compliance fixes.
You pinpointed to the more once.
So Mayor and Council, the city, based on NPCA state statute, requires that every 3 months that they report in with basically a pumping tag.
3 years.
3 years. So with that, this year we're going to implement where we start sending notice and reminders out in April, hoping to capture more of those earlier in the summer. My understanding there's also an issue if you pump it too late in the year with the ground frost, and so there are complications with these systems in the winter. So we're going to get a letter out in April reminding them that there's this 3 years. Hopefully get a letter out to all of the septic pumpers, in which we also did last year, reminding them that we need these notices. So we want to start that early in the spring so they can start getting done and become aware of these situations.
Well, that sounds like to me 6 months is probably better. Sarah, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with 6 months.
Okay. All right, well, we've had our discussion. Any other discussion by council? Okay. Then do I have a motion just to leave as is and go for the 6 months? Okay. I think I'll just state it like that. Okay. So I have a motion to adopt Ordinance 258, second series, amending City Code 3-4 rules and regulating relating to individual on-site sewage treatment, first reading. Do I have a motion? Has it?
I'll make that one.
Councilor Muehlbauer makes that motion. Have a second?
I'll second, Mayor.
Councilor Robinson makes second. Any further discussion? Ordinance roll call?
Muehlbauer.
Aye.
Feldman.
Aye.
Bauer.
Aye.
Ludwig. Aye. Robinson.
Aye.
Pass 5-0.
Okay, good. Thank you. And I want to thank staff on this and thank council, because these are questions we need to ask before we vote on something. Don't worry about it after you vote on it. You want to clarify this and get it out there now, So we'll think about, we'll go back, did we do that right? Rather than have questions answered, ask and answer, I'll make a better decision. Moving on to ordinance 259, second series amending city code 8-3-6, keeping of bees, first reading.
Mayor and council, before you is the requested amendment for beekeeping. This will allow properties with less than 5 acres but greater than 2.25 acres to have bees. From our discussion, I did include a consideration for residents to voluntarily, which is free, register hives for emergency purposes and attach the form of what that may look like. This is a sample. So the ordinance changes are within the first page, and then if there are any questions on a potential registration, or if you're not interested, let me know, and I would be happy to answer any other questions.
Okay, now, we talked about this at a work session, I know about the registration, but it bothers me, because I looked at your form, by the way, and the form is a pretty simple form. I mean, really, you're not swearing your life away or whatever, you're just basically saying your physical description of your hive and its location, includes area and structures, area, color, or style, etc. Blah, blah. So I feel, my own opinion is, this should be voluntarily, we should make it part of them, they should fill out this registration form. It's not a bad form, and put something on record so that we have it there for us. Makes it easier for us in the long run, if there is a problem. And if there is no problem, whatever be used. But if there is a problem, you have a name, phone number, address of hive, and acreage, and then description. Would you not agree that's a helpful thing? But if you make it voluntarily, you're not going to fill it out. I doubt it. Just my thought.
Mayor and council, it would be an addition to what we have now. I guess I don't want to create another permit process, so I'm for a voluntary. If you wish to have it, required.
Well, when they come in, are they doing a permit? No, they're not doing a permit now.
No.
Okay, so when they come in, and so what do they need from the city to go ahead with this? They come into it.
2.25 acres.
Mayor and council, right now, they would just, if they have 2.25 acres, they can have bees. There would be no interaction with the city unless they want to tell us where their hive is so we can document it for emergency.
Okay, so let me ask you this, hypothetically, and I'm just bringing this up for discussion. Hypothetically, okay, let's say beehive owner Smith does a bad job and his hive started a nuisance and all this other stuff and start making a problem here. Would this not be a helpful thing if you had filled out the registration? All you have to know, no fee, no nothing, just fill out the registration form and you have your bees on a 2.25. That's it. So that if there is a problem, we have something to go on from. Would that help police too, by the way? Wouldn't it? Well, thank you.
Once they have bees though, there's no permit. I mean, they can just have bees because the ordinance says they can have bees, is that correct?
Correct.
So is there nothing you can do to stop them from having bees once they have bees? Nothing.
Unless we permit it.
Correct.
We get a permit, or you guys approve and can revoke permits.
And I also think it's, again, would akin this to the chicken situation where you had, I don't know, 100 people up in arms about having chickens, and I think we had one person do it, and I don't think they even have them anymore.
Okay, well, I understand that.
And that could be addressed if it becomes a.
And I agree with that, I just was gonna say that, okay, we can leave it like it is right now because we're just starting, but should this become a problem, this will come back to council through staff, and then we can talk about permitting it if we need to. That sound logical?
David, this is kind of getting into the argument of if they have bees under this code, and the council changes it or creates a permit, they can still operate under the use that we passed today.
I think that they would have to register, but I think they could continue using.
Just like the racetracks,
Just like the racetrack.
you're gonna get into the racetrack issue where they have the racetrack and you can't take it back.
Oh, I don't like that. I don't like
So you effectively can't undo this once you do it.
So suggest something to me here.
So I think we're gonna go rewrite the code if you don't want a permit and the authority to pull permits, and I think that this is gonna have to be redone, honestly.
Well, I mean, look, I don't want to complicate this, but at the same time, I hate, how many times have I said, and Todd can allude to this too, Jay Lecter, we talk about all the time, we go to our meetings there, and, you know, it's people who don't obey the laws or the rules that cause us to have to make the laws and the rules, right? I mean, simply is, you can have 100 people follow the rules, and the 101st screws it up for the 100. It was like that in the military, when I was in the military. One screws it up, we all paid for it. That's a fact. You know, so what I'm saying to you is here is, you know, we're going on the thought that these people are going to be responsible for owners, and most likely most majority of them will. But what if the one person doesn't, and that screws it up, and it comes back to us through council, through a resident here, comes back and says, hey, you know, you let this be approved here, and now I got bees all over my yard, and blah, 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 you know? Now, granted, that could be the nth degree here, and that might take a long time to happen, but it could happen. So you can't write a permit, you can't write a code for everything to cover everybody's CYOA, you can't. I understand that. So is it wrong to at least ask if they call up and want a bees to at least fill out a registration form? No fee, no nothing, you just come in and fill out a form. That basically says your name, phone number, address of Hive, acreage, and your physical description of Hive, its location of property, includes nearby structures, area, color, or style, your sign-up date, done deal. Is that big a deal?
I think what Kate's saying, it has no teeth though.
Well, right, but if the next step happened where you put teeth to a permit, you still have the registration in play. Right or wrong? You're talking about where you couldn't take it back from, yeah, you can, but the registration now is in play.
We would know about it if they filled it out, yeah. But that's it, we wouldn't be able to make them take their hive out or whatever.
Right.
Right.
So I guess what I'm gonna ask Kevin is your opinion of this.
My opinion is, Mayor, this seems to have more regulation on it than the leaking sewer system. I mean, you're not asking anybody, the volunteer mechanism for sewer system pumping is still just kind of out there and wafting around in the cloud. I could have 100 square feet of sunflowers, you know, just boxed in there and have the same amount of bees that I probably have in a hive. And would you come and, would I have to permit my sunflowers? I mean, I'm being a little facetious here, but and if they start dilapidating and falling over and make my yard look like heck, you know, I would, you know, might blight the neighborhood per se. I think let's start it. I mean, we are a nuisance-driven situation. If the neighbors, you know, we enact this thing, in my opinion, if the neighbors are concerned about it or things get out of control, we can say this is now a nuisance situation. You're not entitled to do this anymore. Permit or no permit, whether they fill out the form or not. I'm not for all this over-regulation.
I agree.
We had one citizen come forward and ask about this, and then I learned about your chicken situation after that. And again, in Joe's line of thinking, it was much ado about nothing. I think this bee thing is much ado about nothing. We can't control bees anyway. This person wants to contain them in a small box in their yard for a hobby situation. Nobody's inhibiting anybody from growing 100 square feet of sunflowers in a bulk form. I mean, if somebody builds a new housing development and in the next to a sunflower field, they have no control of what's going to happen there. The bees are there. Your kids could be allergic. There's so many ramifications. You can't govern everything.
Okay, so let me ask you, Dave, so would the nuisance part of it still give us teeth though?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that's.
Right? Nuisance will give us some teeth. So it becomes a problem, and I'm not out for over-regulation either, by the way. I'm just out for covering CYOA.
I understand.
Which I learned the hard way when I was in the military. So I'm saying to you, CYOA does work. Okay, so to me, so if we put this out here and there's a problem, we have some ability through a nuisance ordinance to control or prevent or,
Yes.
or engage it.
Yes.
Correct. Okay. All right, well, I can move that. Joe?
I'm all for lessening the regulations on bees.
We're lessening, we're just gonna keep it as
We're
is.
lessening, because you don't have to have 5. You're going down to 2. It's lowering the land.
Well, right, but we're gonna vote on the ordinance to keep it as it is, though.
Right, lowering the land requirement, less restrictions.
Okay, all right. Rob?
That was my question was, and Mr. Robinson hit it right on the head. It falls under the nuisance regulations for the city, so I'm all for this. I did talk to Joe earlier about what the MLPUD/PUD was, and I had a little question, Kate, about that. So, can you tell me what the acronym is and what it?
Well, planning and development, what's an MLPUD? Multiple listing?
No, marginal land. So they're both part of our PUD, which in our animal ordinances does not, or in our PUD ordinances does not allow animals. So what this is just to clarify, so people understand, now it's in 2 places, because we didn't want it to misrepresent here, because it is likely that a property of this size could end up in a zoning district that is marked an ML or an MLPUD.
Okay. And that's where I talked to Joe, and if we had a property that was 2.25 acres but fell under this PUD, they would not be allowed to have bees.
Planning development.
Correct.
So, and that would be like, developments that have like, what are those regulations of who plows the yards and all, association, right?
Mayor and Council, some of them are, so the golf course area is in a PUD.
Gotcha.
We do have some rural developments that are also in PUDs because there were changes made to the lot sizes, but our PUD ordinances restrict animals. So now we are looking at, with the 5 acre minimums, it was unlikely that would overlap, but now that we're at that 2.25, it is possible that this would overlap.
That was my only question.
Well, that clarifies it, it's on a gray area.
Yeah.
Good, very good.
That was it. Thank you.
Was that your idea?
To put it on, yeah?
Well, thank you.
Just because I get the phone call.
No, well, I'm glad, because anytime you can take out a gray area is a good thing, not a bad thing. Sarah?
Oh, all my questions and concerns have been answered, so.
All right, let me just say to council here, I bring these questions up, as I stated before, because it's the best time to do it now, so that when we vote on, we don't look like fools later on down the road. So as I've stated that already, it's 2 years before I got elected the first time, I saw mistakes being made for things not being questioned, only by one individual, not the other 4. So this time, you are questioning things, and our decisions are better in the long run for it, as our work sessions are. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the patience with me asking these questions. Anyways, getting back to this topic here. Ordinance 259, second series of City Code 8-3-6, keeping of bees, first reading. Do I have a motion as is?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Lewar makes that motion. Have a second?
I'll second, Mayor.
Councilman Robinson makes a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. No, I can't. It's a roll call. Thank you. Barb?
Feldman,
Aye.
Bauer,
Aye.
Ludwig. Aye. Robinson,
Aye.
Mulebauer.
Aye.
Passed 5-0.
Thank you. Okay. I feel better. Okay. All right, now moving on to, ordinance 260, second series amended City Code 11-11-3, payment for installation of improvements, first reading.
Mayor and council, working our way down the list. As discussed in our work session last week, before you is an amendment to the Utilities Security Code. This allows the city to be flexible when working with our developers with large or complicated developments. Terms are finalized on these percentages in the development agreements and would be approved by council at the time of the development. There is only one minor change, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, I like how you worded that, or as otherwise determined by council, so there's your flexibility right there. Well, I'm fine with it. Rob, rules.
Oh, I'm fine with it.
Okay, sir?
Yep.
Do you think that, I have one question. I like that also, and again, we discussed that in the work session. Or is it, do you think it's blatant enough to a potential developer that they see the 150 and go, oh, never mind? But we've got some garnishes in there that make it, no, you at least ask us first, you know, we don't want to, you think there's enough there to say, for people to go beyond 150, now I'm out, or 150, oh wait, otherwise, depending on council,
Mayor and council, the best part is most developers don't read our code, so they're calling to ask this question directly, so now we have this, but if they do look it up, it would be, you know, they would see that pretty blatantly, that 150, and if they chose not to read on, but a lot of them don't dig that hard and would call and ask. So.
I'm glad you speak fluent developer then, so that's good, thank you.
Joe?
I think it's good that we open up ourselves for flexibility and being able to work with the developers.
By the way, I just want to say that was one of my questions in a work session about that. You don't feel it'll be a turnout because they're not calling anyway, and you can explain that to them. I believe in true flexibility is the way to go, especially when we have limited land to develop. We don't want to be a turnout to developers. That's one thing we don't want. So, all right. I'm okay with that one. So anyways, ordinance 260, second series amending City Code 11-11-3, payment for installation of improvements, first reading. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Councilor Bauer makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Councilor Hood makes a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, Barb.
Howard,
Aye.
Isaac,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Mulebauer,
Aye.
Feldman.
Aye. Okay, good, we're moving right along here. Ordinance 261, second series amending City Code 7-3-6, recreational motor vehicles, first reading.
Mayor and council, last but not least is the amendment to our codes as they are related to the recreational motor vehicles. As discussed previously at a work session, there was concern on how the recreational vehicles were being used on the smaller lots or on lots within developments. This code defines the racetrack and exhibition driving along with lot sizes, setbacks, and prohibits driving styles. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so we have it on 2.5 acre minimums, 2.5 acre or greater, setbacks at 50 feet off the lot line and 50 feet off the structure, correct?
Correct.
And does this ML, PUD, and PUD relate to this or not? Or it's just the fact that 2.5 acres doesn't even pertain to those?
Mayor and council, this would be citywide.
Citywide.
Correct. We did not identify zoning districts in this code.
So citywide, it doesn't matter if you have, it has to be 2.5 plus
Correct.
to do it. With the 50-50 setbacks, okay, and drive expectation. I like it myself, I like it. Sarah?
No, we spent considerable amount of time at a work session hashing this out, and I think this was our final draft, so thank you for all your work, Kate.
Okay, Kevin?
Question, for anybody currently involved in or making the use of a racetrack and or exhibition driving that the police might be dealing with, what is the recourse for the police department in this by adding 8 and 9? So if you were doing it yesterday and whooping it up in your yard, but now after this goes through the process here, what does the police chief's employees have to do if somebody's doing this?
They would be able to issue a citation for the action that is being taken.
Okay.
There are statutes of nuisance with the state that are pointed out. We do have some teeth through the nuisance parts to deal with this. And I will go over that with Todd later on, and as I'm sure Joe and you have discussed it. I know we discussed it with Joe.
That was my only question, thank you.
Joe?
I have a question, and it's something I brought up to you. When I talked to you about the one gentleman that was asking about the roads and whatnot, how ATVs can be operated on the roads, which I told him to contact the police as well, and then Kate gave me the advice to tell him as well as talk to the sheriffs and whatnot for county roads and state roads, the rules can be different. The only thing I reiterated to him was that we had an issue with the golf cart situation. I wasn't sure exactly how that went into it. Does exhibition driving then, does that limit any more? Because it's kind of vague when it talks about road operations. I told him obviously as far as I know it wouldn't be street legal anyways. I don't know how that works or what the rules are for that. And we looked over section 7 of the codes to try to determine where any of the prohibitions were, and it basically just says don't drive on people's sidewalks or whatever. Obviously, you don't want to damage property and drive safe. Where it doesn't necessarily prohibit it on roads, granted we have nothing but county roads and state roads pretty much through most of our city on major roadways. Because he was asking about driving down Bridge Street, say to go to county market or whatnot. I figured that'd probably be frowned upon. I told him I didn't know the exact specifics of that rule. But does the exhibition driving part of this code change and cover that, or is that completely separate? Or what would your recourse be, I guess, if somebody, can somebody drive down Bridge Street, granted it's a county road, but like, can somebody just drive down a neighborhood street with their four-wheeler? If they're going up to speed?
Yeah, they still have to, there's a number of requirements they still have to follow. Our local ordinance does allow ATVs to be allowed or driven on certain city streets between certain times, but they still have to follow all the D&I registration requirements. They still have to, the exhibition driving, they would still have to follow all the driving requirements, reckless driving, careless driving, speeding. There's a number of them that are laid out in state statute that they have to abide by. Local ordinance, all that allows them to do is operate on a certain city street between certain times But all the other Minnesota state statutes and DNR statutes, they still have to abide by. So it doesn't excluding them, it's just,
On top of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a, yeah, I think that kind of covered, what are the times too for that sort of stuff, if you know off the top of your head? I'll tell the guy to call you.
It's very clear in our ordinance, and if he wants to give me a call, I can certainly discuss it.
Was that one of the guys that came with him?
No, that was somebody else. This is a resident that lives here, actually lives in, over Fairway, yeah, that's it.
Mine was, kind of the same question, but I don't think I got a real clear answer on the county. Can the residents from our city streets get over Bridge Street, means it's a county road? Is there a county ordinance that doesn't allow
The
ATVs or golf carts?
From my understanding, then that's gonna fall more under the DNR statutes, I believe. The county roads, they're basically limited to the inside of the ditches. There's a limited amount of time where you can actually come onto a road with an ATV. With side-by-side, it's a little different, they're actually not allowed in the ditches, they want them on the side of the roads. But again, they still have to, if they meet certain county requirements to be operating on the roads or in the ditches, they still have a number of requirements they still have to meet. State statute wise, they have to continue on those. So that's why you don't see too many of those, because very few can actually meet all those requirements.
Except for the ones who don't know there's any requirements to follow.
Yeah, they're not.
Don't know they're out there.
But other than the racetrack stuff, I like the codes.
Okay.
Thanks, Gabe.
Did I ask you, sir, already? Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. All right, ordinance 261, second series, amended city code 7-3-6, recreational mobile vehicles, first reading. Do I have a motion to adopt as it is?
Make that motion, Mayor.
Councilor Robinson makes a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Councilor Woodruff makes a second, any further discussion? The ordinance, Mark?
Benedict,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Spielbauer,
Nay.
Feldman,
Aye.
Bauer,
Aye.
4-1.
Okay. All right. Meet over the public, I take we don't have anyone? Okay. Department reports, Public Works.
Mayor, council, in front of you is the public works reports. We happen to know we only pulled one pump last month, which is down from the previous month. There is, let's see here. Looks like both facilities are running well. And you'll notice in the streets and parks report, we plowed 441 miles last month, which is considerably amount more than in November, so. And then also we've applied 58,000 gallons to the ice rinks, which have been going very well this year. With that, I'll answer any questions.
Yeah, the weather's working good for that.
What's that?
The weather's working good for that.
Yes, yes.
So,
It's been a very good year for that.
okay, this is where I see it, Jeremy, on the rereads, 124 on the rereads, back on the public works part, and then the work orders, rereads high, that's 52. But look, I expect these numbers right now as we go to our transition period. I expect it. I know that will streamline down once this whole system gets working.
Yes.
And from what I gather is the software for these meters is about were the majority of it done already, the software part of it, for the meter systems?
From my understanding, yes.
Yes.
That's what I read.
Yes.
90%. I want to commend you guys on plowing. I know it gets frustrating when you get snow almost every other day. But you're doing a great job. And the beasts are keeping up with everything.
Yes.
Our two beasts and grader and front loader.
Yes, everything's been operating very well.
And the two beasts for console, of course, are our new trucks. Which I marvel every time I see them on the road. Because they are beasts. Rob, anything to say?
I was curious about the 100, if we only have 42 meters out there that need to be changed out, where are the 124 rereads coming from?
Mayor, council, that I don't have an answer for you on that.
I would think it was it's just people calling in when we had issues with a meter that, you know, we've had several that the final reading was putting wrong, so we had to go out and look at the meter, and things like that.
I think it really has more than just not the meter change out, it's just a matter of the transition period, some are getting some different reads. But once the actual glitches get worked out, the system should streamline. But you're gonna get glitches like this when you change over a whole system. You know what I mean? We're not changing out half a dozen years, we're changing out 1,700 years. So this is not surprising to me. As months go on, the system gets up and running, you should see a wave.
So this could be some people that got their meters changed and like, hey, I usually don't use that much, you know, can you come check it out? Okay.
Which those are.
Yeah. The sewer system seems to be running fine, and I know I bring this up often about getting our septic customers online and having those companies that do that have a place to dump. And I know a lot of them drive all the way to St. Paul in the road conditions, you know, they're spending a lot of gas getting there. It could be a service that our system could potentially alleviate some of that, you know, if we write policies to accept just St. Francis residents as dumping and then just kind of broaden it from there, I think would be a good idea. We're running at 100%. I'm still waiting on my glass of water.
Yes. Yes.
That's all I have. Great report.
Sir?
No, great report.
You know, I would just like to go on what you just said here, you know. We didn't get the variance for the property, so we have a plant that's really bigger than we need as of today, okay? That could change down the road with generational changes and stuff like that. But, you know, this, Jeremy, what he's talking about is that septic haulers. That's not something I talked to Paul about before too. I think right now we have to wait until we get that position filled, and then we can look forward to that. But we should pursue that. But I want to commend you and Parrish and the team for keeping everything working in orderly condition while we're going through this transition period. And I think if you're not, you will be aware now that February 5th, the council will be meeting for the 3 finalists to meet the interview process. And that we'll choose that night for a Public Works Director. You were part of that process, so I think are you happy with the last final 3 that have come forth to us?
Yes.
Okay. And you see potential for one of them being the director?
Yeah.
On that, I want to ask you, so far, our bugs are working fine, even with Oak Grove to us?
Yes, yeah, as far as I'm aware, yes.
Okay. So we're not seeing any red flags?
No.
All right, once again, so of the 3 that you participated in the interview process, from the 7 that started out, you believe firmly or confidently that one of those 3 can be in the position?
Yes.
All right.
May I have a question?
Yeah, please.
One of the citizens had called me and said he had actually been plowing his driveway, and I know I brought this up at a previous meeting. He waved to the plow driver as the plow driver was going by as he was pushing stuff across the road. And 30 minutes later, a police officer did knock on his door and say, hello, how are you? And explain to him, you're not to be doing this. And the guy kind of, well, you know, but he understood. When he called, he understood. But there's still, I see people in the same neighborhood. I actually drove by the gentleman's house. There are other people in the same neighborhood. So Chief, if you can address it or whatever, does everyone get the same? Other than just, like I said, when I first moved here, I got a letter and I went, what? I'm not doing that. Well, no, there's usually blanket letters go out. Nobody's singled out. But when a police officer comes, you know, they're asking you nicely. This is the first warning, you know, don't do this anymore. But do you see when your officers see other people, other things that maybe hasn't been reported by a plow driver? Do they give them the courtesy knock and say, hey, how are you?
Yeah, our community resource officer has been focusing on that so far this winter. You know, the winter months with the parking on the lawn, that kind of takes a back seat a little bit. Everything is covered in snow, so we have fun getting ready to focus on. We felt that pushing snow across the roadway was maybe a good one because it does create some hazards out there, not only for our plow drivers, but for others, motorists. So he's been, when he observes them during his routes, I guess we'll call them, when his patrol routes, he has issued a number of letters, just basically as kind of a courtesy, letting them know the ordinance and why it's there. We've got some positive feedback, we've got some negative feedback.
Sure, it's like anything.
Just the letters, but yeah, to my knowledge, I won't say I'm 100% confident in this, I don't believe any citations have been issued for that violation like that, but I don't remember the others.
And it's not just our rule, it's a state law, as you explained previously, they're not to be doing that. And again, the hazards that a plow driver runs into, frozen chunks, mailboxes not seen, whatever. Jeremy can probably answer some of that stuff, but it's not like we're out there harassing you, and the gentleman who called me didn't feel harassed, he kind of knew. And he took his Bobcat, went out and knocked down what he had created, so. But again, it's not a harassment situation, it's the law, it's a state law. And it does put our drivers in peril and the equipment in peril, and nobody wants to see that, so. Thank you.
Right, the more snow you put on the road, where are you gonna put it?
Right.
So I mean, it's like everybody's like a wider driveway mouth to the driveway. If you did that, you have no place to put snow. You have to have some curves someplace.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, thank you for the report, Chairman. Parish, help you with that too?
Yes.
All right, moving on to 2019 Community Development Annual Report. Kate?
Mayor and Council, before you tonight is the Community Development Year-End Report. Throughout this report, I will highlight 2019. On page 4, I start with an organizational chart that outlines the two staff and some of their general daily duties that they accomplish throughout the year. On page 5, I've highlighted our current commercial and economic development initiatives. The city continues with small success. We continue to work with projects in various stages and encourage additional commercial development. Projects are complicated when everything goes as planned, and that we do have a few extra layers that come into play, so some of these move fairly slowly. For initiatives, we continue to work with the other 20 cities. We do a lot of marketing efforts. We do some year-end meetings with brokers, some business meetings. This year, the city created some videos to highlight the city. And then in 2019, the EDA did meet 4 times, mainly related to real property acquisition and sales. And the EDA is finally seeing success with the Meadows Townhome project. On page 6, I've attached, and also to the back of the report, are the updates on the St. Francis Forward Plan. This was created by listening to the voices of the residents and laying out the groundwork for projects that happen on Bridge Street and Highway 47. Page 5 also begins the significant housing projects. The city is seeing a lot of progress on rooftops, not only in new development, but also in old inventory being filled, such as Chelsea Gardens that have been out there for several years, the Meadows as well. So we're seeing a lot of old inventory continue to fill. On page 7, I addressed some of the planning commission meetings, which they met 5 times last year as a group. Only meets when they are required. They are involved in a lot of the code changes. The codes tonight did not require planning commission, so they were able to move a little bit faster. They also work with the development discussions. Next is the information specific to our building. First is a look at our permit revenues. This is going to exceed the $1 million mark this year, and much of that is related to those commercial developments and permits with the schools. Permit revenues are set through the fee schedule and split among water, sewer, engineering, and Metro West, so those fees are not necessarily a blanket amount to the city of St. Francis. Those fees also cover department expenses from staffing, space, vehicles, and the necessary technology, really to keep them moving from day to day. On page 8, you can see a breakdown of the revenues by type. It shows what was applied towards the water and sewer, and each permit signifies a project, which could mean a project worth millions of dollars being invested to a new roof. So each permit has a significant value to the city. For new growth and sustainability and existing buildings and properties, that permit count and those permit revenues have really added up in the last year. On page 9, I show how 2019 was a busy year for building and zoning. Our total permit count was at 549. There have been significant increases each year since 2016 with that count, and this shows how strong our team does work together and take on these increases and gets through from year to year. The new construction saw 57 new permits this year, which was a positive jump from the last year, since last year was down from 2017. On page 10, I address the ongoing issues of code enforcement. Vehicles continue to be the highest complaint. Even with new efforts with the police department, hopefully we will see some improvements over the next couple of years. Council continues to update codes. 2019 brought needed changes to the rental and pawnbrokers, as well as created codes for the self-storage facilities and updated a few others. Page 11 identifies a few of the more time-consuming projects for administration. 2019 started with a variance request to the DNR, ended with a major highway project, so the city has very large projects we continue to work through. Currently, we have 181 rental properties. That number has come down a little bit with some recent updates. We have 740 septic systems and 54 properties that have special permits through the IEP or CEP process. So there's a lot to manage in the administration of all of those programs. We're aware of 9 vacant properties and administrative daily, so what keeps us moving really from day to day. The last 2 pages are the St. Francis Forward updates. And at that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Well, first of all, I want to say a very good report. But a couple of questions here on page 5. 4201 St. Francis Boulevard. Is that bicycle place we sold that lot to?
Correct.
Okay, now he's going to put it on the market, right?
Mayor and Council, it is listed for sale, correct?
Okay, so I would just like to bring to council's attention on this and staff for future, okay? Should the city ever get into a contract for deed again with something like this, we should put a time limit on it. That if they don't start construction or within a year time frame, it falls back to the city. Because this has been going on for a long time with no end result. Now he's got in the market, which still ties that property up, right?
Correct.
It's not us, we're not hiring a real estate agent, he is. So right now, we've taken ourselves out of control. So I just would advise council when this comes before on a contract for deed, we sit there and go 1 year from the date of the contract for deed going into effect. If you have to start construction on a new project, it falls back to us, and then we can move on. Would you agree with that, Kate, or some discussion on that anyway?
Yep, Mayor and Council, I would agree we would need look-back clauses on properties we sell if we want them protected as far as,
Because, I mean, hopefully he'll sell it right away, but we don't know. I mean, he has building going on there right now, which is a good thing in that area. 3518 Bridge Street, is that the Lamaker property?
no, Mayor and Council,
Which one is
that is
that?
the property next to Casey's but before the river. So
Okay, it's our E-lot?
East
East
shop
shop
site.
lot?
Correct,
So there's still some pending status with the county legal side to be worked out?
correct. And we hope to have that moving forward again at the end of the month, or actually this week, so.
Okay. And then Meridian, have they been in contact with you, so construction should start this summer?
Yep, the last conversation I had with Meridian was right before the first of the year, and they are still planning to move forward this spring.
Okay, and senior living, nothing at all, no contact with Mosaic of any kind?
Mayor and Council, I have not heard from them since the summer.
Darcy, I'm not gonna ask you what number this gentleman owes the county, because I have a rough number in my head that I think I know he owes. But where do we stand with that, type of thing like that, with that property, and where this goes? Does still on there's money owed to the county and the city that's been,
Yeah, and I don't know if he has paid his property taxes.
into another year now, beyond moving forward. So what I'm asking you is, how long does this go on, Dave? I mean, how long does it go on where this could take this years to come to an end, or here, or whatever on that
If
property?
you do tax forfeiture, it's generally a 3-year process.
And so how does that work as far as like when the tax forfeiture, so let's say it doesn't pay for 3 years, then it's forfeiture?
Correct. And then it would be sold at auction.
We're at 2 years for sure right now, I would think.
Yeah, I don't know, I'd have to look at the property records.
I just bring it up to council's attention. It's sad to see all the work that was done in the past to come to a dead end here. And as we sat here at council meetings, listening when a new partnership was brought to our attention, the Mosaic part of it, anyway, and all the promises made and everything like that, and still we're no farther ahead than we were the year before last, which is a real shame. I don't know how that's going to play out. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But 3 years of unpaid taxes goes into foreclosure.
Sure, so.
Okay. Well, Darcy, when you get a chance, tomorrow, whatever, just let me know a date and time frame. Because I think it's been at least 2 years, I'm thinking. But it could not only be, it has to go on from the time that you put it in, right? The time that you delayed payments or whatever. So in other words, you turned it over to the county, as I recall.
Yeah, it's already at the county level.
Right, so from that date, if I'm correct, from the time she turns it over, from that date is 3 years from that date?
If that's how long it is, what it comes
Right, I'm saying, but the
Yes.
clock starts from the date she
What's
turned it
the
over.
annual date?
Yes.
Okay, so when she turned it over for lack of payment, whatever, on the city portion, the taxpayer portion to the county, then the clock starts for the 3 years from that date.
Correct.
So it's whether it was 2 years ago, when we were late or whatever, so on and so forth. All right. I also want to bring to council's attention while I'm here, talking about this, because remember I told you about how 1 year you'll have it up, and then another year you'll have it down, they have it up, and you see this on the graphs, by the way. As you can see here, on page 7 for one, and then on page 8 for sure, again, another one. You can see the graphs, because what happens is, a lot of these things go in the process. Let's say the process now, 20 should be pretty good. If the economy stays whole, 20 should be good, because a lot of this stuff was already in play. Meadows will be more in place. I just drove by there, saw 2 buildings completed with the other 2 coming up in that, and he's telling me sales are going good there. But I'm saying to you that the reason we don't see a consistency is because we don't have enough projects that are out there. The projects we have are starting in the paper form, like the property on the 163 homes on Ambassador to 241. That's in the paperwork starting process, very starting process. May come to something this year, most likely the year after, or whatever. But you have, in other words, I'm just trying to explain to council that you have a processing period as to go through all the planning and everything like that, and all that stages and that, and the permitting, all that stuff, and then get into the building part. So right now, where you see on page 1, once again, 7, as Kay has alluded to in a graph, you see where 16 was down, 17 was up, 18 was down a little bit, and 19 was back up. So I'm looking forward to seeing 2020 being a little good year. Weather holes and things are in motion, which I think very good by complimenting your department. So I'm very pleased with the report. So obviously to me, value improvements are way up. Again, with the school bond issue and the quick trip coming in, which I think is a great move. I see some definitely positive direction and potential with the city of St. Francis for that. So Sarah, I'll start with you. Do you have any comments on that report?
It's another great report, Kate. I appreciate all your hard work, and it's exciting to see us starting to really see some of that St. Francis Board planning that we did finally come to fruition. It's nice to see that, so thank you for the report.
Rob?
Great report, Kate. On page 7, so with the increased revenues, I guess this may be to Darcy, does more of that revenue, because we can only spend so much money, is there more of that going into the sewer and the water fund to help,
Second whack.
The second whack fees go into,
Have you seen have you used that chart to see, are we slowing down on where we're at with the sewer and the water and with our rate reduction? Are we
The 2023
leveling out,
projection?
we're forecasting well?
I have to update it for the end of the year stuff here yet. And then we'll see how it turns out.
Okay.
But, I mean, I think that has helped us a lot to get that much in. And that's one of the things that when we did lower the rates, we knew that there were some developments coming as we were planning on that. Yes.
Mixed along with Oak Grove.
Yeah, Oak Grove was unforeseen cause
Yeah.
for it.
Kate, the 4201, I'm just spitballing here. Is there any idea of maybe the EDA just reacquiring that property, or is he listing it for this massive increase or profit margin on his part? Could the EDA buy it back out of the contractor deed for flat? The city's not out any money, he's not out any money, and we just receive that property back?
Mayor and Council, at one point that property owner was behind in payments, and we had made an offer such as that, and he refused to accept it. Otherwise, we don't have any clause in the agreements to do that like we did with the Meadows, so if it wasn't voluntary,
Right.
we wouldn't be able to, and at this point, he has not been interested.
I just don't wanna see it sit, for sale,
That's why we have to have a buyback.
Yeah.
In every clause we do. That's why we do that.
Other than that, great report. Thanks.
Okay, before I turn over next to, what, the property that Seller owns next to our liquor muni, anything with that going on?
Mayor and council, we met with that property owner last week. He also has listed it for sale and is, his initial desire to build an office headquarters there is no longer of an interest to him, so it is also now for sale.
Right, because he located to Princeton or Zimmerman.
Correct, something like that, correct.
All right. But we have no buyback in that one either, do we?
Correct.
Right, so it's prudent to have buyback clause.
Mr. Mayor, I just had one more thing. The septic system, I would like to see, let's say, A to F is in April, and separate this 740 into some sort of 3-month plan for those residents to kind of get into that 3-year plan of fixing our septic inspection program. That's what, by address, date, or I don't know.
You're gonna have a hard time with that though too, because the sales go or whatever too, and then change the date every time, to where you can't just lump them all together.
And we do have some tracking that we've just gotta get caught up on and refresh.
What a variables.
Yeah.
Joe?
Sorry, that was it.
Great report as usual. Thank you for your hard work in the department all year. I just hope that the trend continues upwards as far as the permits and revenue. Thank you.
Kevin?
A good report, thank you very much. I think you got a good partner in crime with Jody in there. She seems very even keel. She's cool, calm, collected under fire, and she given me several explanations on a couple things, and she looks right at you. She's not fearful. I mean, she knows what she's talking on. You can tell she's gaining a lot of traction, so things in that mirror may be closer than you think. But one question, last year, maybe in February, March, you and I spoke, and I think we talked about a little meeting. Are you still trying to get around and see the businesses that are here in a networking fashion? And not that we have to, just a hi, how are you, and that we're here, can we help you to enhance stuff that we have here already, or those people could also branch out and network to things that we have available for sale that they might tell their other entrepreneurial friends about and say, hey, but are we still having outreach to other than chamber?
Mayor and council, I haven't done a lot directly. There are 2 initiatives moving. One is the chamber. They are looking at different events and different conversations about doing business retention expansion conversations.
Sure.
The other is through the countywide economic development initiative. That group, and I think we'll see more of it this year, is really working on trying to pull a retention program together and have kind of a countywide format, so we're all speaking the same language. So I haven't spun too far off in our own direction, trying to wait to see what they do, so we're not inundating some of these businesses.
Sure.
But that is one thing we, definitely 2020 needs to look at.
Sure. I mean, even at once a year, just to let them know that, they're here, they're doing business, and it's like, those people at the city, you hear and you can hear some good stuff too, but it's nice that they're some of our biggest paying customers, as it were. They're employing some people that live here as well, and commerce is, money's changing hands and whatnot. It's nice to let them know that we're not just a big bag city here. We're here to help, and again, there could be avenues that they don't know that you might have some property available and nobody thought about it, or they haven't been talking to anybody at the coffee shop about it. So just a thought I had, but very good report. Thank you.
All right, I want to just say to you that your staff is working very well under your tutelage, and I'm very happy so far myself, the council will agree, that the community resource officer working with Jody in conjunction is doing really well with code compliance. I definitely think Lyle was the man for the job. I think that he's the one who can handle it, and it seems to be working out right now. That I hope that when it comes to abatements next time, the ones we'll have to deal with are those 1 to 2 to 5% that we're going to have to deal with no matter what. But at the same time, from what I was told before, is that notification is solving the problem. notifying people what their complaint is, and making them understand where it fits, and they comply, that's a 90% margin, that's really good. That was the whole purpose of, putting that into effect, and I want to commend you. I think the move with Jody Slot is, I think, is excellent. I think your staff is really good. I think in general, by the way, speaking as the mayor here, I think staff is really working well, really well, on all cylinders along the council. And I think that's a good thing. I think our work sessions are excellent, very fruitful, long, but at the end of the day, we get a lot done. We truly do. And I want to thank staff for your patience working with us, answering our questions, because we care as much as you do, and we need to understand what's going on before we make those final votes now. I want to commend Public Works too, by the way, for the plowing and everything. Keep it up. I know there's some days we're just pretty much tired and go, God, it's snowing again. God. Every time it snows, I think about you guys, the police and fire, everybody out there and all that, and think to myself, it's just, I know how sick, I'm sick of it. I'll put it like that. I'm ready to have some sun and some warmer temperatures. But in the meantime, I want to thank you guys for your patience and staff's patience with us. On that, I will turn over to council member reports. Kevin, I'll start with you.
I really have nothing to report, sir.
Okay, that was easy. Joe?
Well, I attended the work session along with Kevin.
Oh. Yes, I was
You were
there.
there.
Thanks.
Other than that, I don't have much to report either, other than the work session, and then I think we did have a good discussion about all the topics there. I think we do have definitely good outcome from that to bring forth to the meetings here.
Yeah, I think the input from all of us is really exceptional, and I think staff want to look at that. I think our ideas at the end of the day, they're fruitful. They actually benefit the city. Rob?
I just want to say I went this weekend to the girls' basketball fundraiser. They had bingo and silent auction. There was a great turnout. It was really good to see the community come together for the girls' basketball. And I also had on Facebook someone inquiring about why the city is not plowing out the mailboxes and the fire hydrants, and had a conversation. That is not the city's responsibility. Please plow out your own mailboxes and your closest fire hydrant. It's for our own safety and other residents next to you. So please plow out your fire hydrants and your mailboxes for post service.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's very good. Sarah?
I had the work session, and I also attended the school board meeting on January 13th.
No, I don't go along with what Rob said. I mean, it's like in my neighborhood, we all join, we all take turns, who's ever got to blow out their mailbox and that. So, yeah, because otherwise you won't get your mail delivered. If they are blocked, you won't get your mail delivered. And for fire, the same thing. So very good point. Very good point. Tonight I joined, I went to that work ceremony at the police department. Very good cake once again. Gloria did herself. And I think it's really great when you commend people for doing a job well done. But as I also told the officers, it also gives you a raise as chief to tell them when they do something wrong. So, I mean, they all laughed at that one, but true. But I will say to you that it's very nice. It's very nice to, as we did with Paul with his Public Works Award, the community award that we got to the MWA. It's nice to acknowledge people that go that extra yard or that extra effort. And your resource officer, all the hours he's put in, everything like that. But like I say again, and what I'm most appreciative with fire and police and fire, either way, the community relationship you as chiefs are bringing to the departments. That's a big thing in my mind, as I'm sure the council. We're not a town of 60,000 or 400,000. We're a town of 8,000 growing. As I told the officers tonight at that ceremony, it's important that the public feels that their police department is approachable. Okay? As I know, one time you said years ago, it didn't seem like the councils in the past were approachable, and we are today. It's important for those people out there to know you can talk to us. If you have a problem or something you don't agree with, a fine that you got or a permit fee or something that you don't agree with, you can come and talk to us. Okay? We're going to look at it. We're going to look at it in a flexible way. We'll be fair, firm, and square. At the end of the day, you may not get the answer you want to hear, as I've stated before many times at a meeting or a newsletter, but we will look at it with open minds and due diligence. We will do that. We said we would 3 years ago, and we've done it 3 years later, and we'll continue doing that. So to me, I just again want to commend you department chiefs, police and fire. Very pleased to it's the same type of attitude that you have there. That your firefighters and police officers get out there and let people know that that uniform is not to be afraid of. That you can talk to people, and I want to commend you both on that. I want to commend all staff for working really well with us in the last 3 years as we turn into a fourth year, second term for me, and I will be running for re-election coming up on that. But I will say to you that it's been a hard road, a long road, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. We are doing some good things here. Our work sessions that are really panning out, and I think the city's going in the right direction. And I think that's a good thing. I feel really good about that. At least if anything, the hard work is paying off, and it was a lot of hard work, and it continues to be. Any other business that this council has to do tonight that I'm aware of? Anybody? And I will adjourn this meeting at 7:51. Thank you.